Hey, welcome back to the Race State. In some of our language, if you pay attention, we sometimes say, hey, look, the organization of the shoulder remains constant, but what's happening with the elbow dictates a lot of what's going to happen upstream or downstream. Same thing happens with the leg. So if the leg is straight, that's long lever. If the elbow is straight, that's long lever. If it's bent, it's short lever. This has implications for spotting and understanding what's going on. Sometimes it's also important because it allows us to pick up on lost and hidden capacities. So when we look at dorsiflexion in the ankle, we go DF there. When in flexion, this is shorthand for flexion, usually we want somewhere between 20 and 30 degrees. 30 degrees is definitely generous, but we are in populations where 30 degrees of dorsiflexion is nice. But this is a pretty normative range of motion that people can relate to, being able to squat, being able to pistol, being able to receive a full snatch in this bottom position. But what's interesting is that this is all an expression of short lever DF. So we're looking at what's going on with the ankle when the hip is fully flexed and the knee is bent. So this is a dorsiflexion 20 to 30 degrees. But it turns out that one of the hidden ranges of motion is what goes on when the leg is straight. And oftentimes we fail to appreciate that an athlete needs about 10 degrees of dorsiflexion when the leg is in this long lever position. And the implications of this, you're thinking to yourself, I'm not deadlifting or powerlifting like this. The implications are this: anytime I'm jumping or running, exploding, which may not be your sport, but may be part of your sport. So dorsiflexion in long lever needs to be about 10 degrees. So where this really particularly shows up is as if the athlete is translating over the leg, I absolutely am going to need some dorsiflexion here. And what ends up happening is that if I don't have 10 degrees of dorsiflexion in this long lever shape, for whatever reason, fascial system strains, demands of the gastroc at the knee and at the ankle, as I translate over this foot, the body's going to go around the problem. And it's one of the reasons we see the foot turn out. This full expression of 10 degrees of dorsiflexion in this position with the hip in extension is really where this shows up. And oftentimes a lot of our movements don't appreciate that an athlete is going to need this dorsiflexion position. We know that in order to internally rotate the hip a little bit so that I can hit this extension position, this foot turned out shape is one of the biggest jump factor issues we see in leaking of power in jumping overhead or dragging sleds or pushing. And as we know from the tunnel concept, if this is my finish position because I don't have dorsiflexion in this shape, I'm either going to have to use my big toe for 100% of it or the middle of my foot, or I'm going to go around the problem, which means that as I run now and come through and strike, I may be landing in a less effective position. Why? Because in the air, I do not have time to straighten my foot out. So in this position, do I have enough tissue excursion, tissue extensibility to express 10 degrees of dorsiflexion so that when I spin through in the tunnel, I can actually still strike with the foot on the ground. So as you're looking at ranges of motion, crucial that we are appreciating the difference between long lever and short lever. Does that have implications of the shoulder? You bet. Does it have implications of looking at hip range of motion? You bet. Is the knee bent or is the elbow straight? As we've talked before, this is one of the ways that the body buys itself compensations, solves a movement problem. Can you do what your body is supposed to be able to do? That's the question, and it's a simple one. So we can begin to not have to always work on the problem. Let's just make sure that you can do what your body, everyone agrees you should be able to do, and then we'll just see if you just have the big engine to support that. See you next time.